Hey, this is David McCree, CPA. Um, Today we're going to talk about how to solve a problem that probably a lot of nonprofits are having right now, small nonprofits. Okay, if your nonprofit has $50,000 or less in gross receipts on average over the last 3 years, you've probably been trying to submit Form 990N. Sometimes there are technical difficulties and organizations just can't seem to submit the form. Okay, and so that's what we're talking about. And we're talking about, let's say you haven't been able to file your 990N for the last 2 years, and now you're approaching the deadline for the third return. And as you probably understand, if you fail to file for 3 consecutive years, you automatically lose your tax-exempt status. Okay, so here's the situation. An organization is eligible to submit IRS Form 990N, the electronic postcard, but because of technical problems, they have not been able to file the 990N. Maybe you've called the IRS. The IRS maybe has said, okay, well, we'll file it for you, but you don't really have any way to confirm that. You didn't file for the first 2 years, and now you're approaching the filing deadline for the third year return. Okay, so let's just make a practical example, and let's say 2021 there was no filing, 2022 there was no filing, 2023 the May 15th 2024 due date is approaching. Okay, now I'm assuming a calendar year, fiscal year here, right? You'll have to adjust the due dates if you have a June 30 year end or September or whatever. We're talking about a calendar here just for brevity. Okay, so you're approaching the third year due date. You've tried to file it. You've called the IRS. You're not sure they filed it for you. What can you do? Well, what you can do is file an extension request for a Form 990EZ. Okay, you cannot request an extension for a 990N electronic postcard. They just don't have extensions for that. Of course, if you file the 990N late, there's no monetary penalty. They don't charge you a penalty for it. But if you don't file it for 3 consecutive years, you lose your tax-exempt status. Okay, that's the penalty. So if you can't file the 990N, even though you're eligible to do that, the electronic postcard, what you can do is you can file a 990EZ. All right, there's more to it. It costs more, etc. But if that's what it takes to prevent your exempt status from being revoked, then so be it. So what you're going to do is you either going to file your 990EZ by May 15, 2024, or you're going to have to get an extension. Now, most likely, if the IRS is not accepting your 990N, they're probably not accepting the 990EZ either. All right, there's something wrong with the electronic filing record that your organization has, and that has to get fixed. And the only way to get that fixed is to be very persistent. Okay, just stay on their back all the time to get it fixed. So, also, right, you can file the extension online electronically, but again, they're probably going to reject it. So you can still file the 8868. That's the extension request form. You can file that on paper, okay, and you're probably going to have to do that. Okay, I would recommend it. So you need to file that before the filing deadline, right? May 15th. You need to get that extension filed. You need to use certified mail or send it FedEx, and then you've just bought yourself 6 months, okay, because it's a 6-month extension. So make sure you get that 990EZ filed by the November 15th extended due date. Okay. Now, something else we got to talk about here is it's a little trap. Okay. When you've got coming up on 3 years of non-filings, you can file any one of those returns. Like in this case, the 2021 or the 2022, you could file those, and that would prevent you from being revoked. But it would open you up to late filing penalties. Okay, you didn't file the 990N, you know, that's fine. But there's no monetary penalty for that. But if you decide, oh, well, I want to go back and file a 990EZ for 2021 and 22, once your electronic filing record gets fixed, you can go back and do that. But you're going to be open to late filing penalties, okay? And those can be substantial. You can get out of them usually, but it's it's a lot more work. Okay, so you want to extend your 990EZ. Again, even though you're eligible for the 990N, you can still file a 990EZ. Okay, and that has to be filed electronically, as just like the 990N. What you're doing here is you're just buying yourself more time because you can file an extension for the EZ. All right, and remember, like if they get your electronic filing record fixed, say in September or October, you can't file the 990N at that point, okay? Because it's going to be revoked. You're going to be revoked, all right? Because the filing deadline for the 990N has already passed, and remember, you can't extend it. Okay, so once you file that, once you're past the May 15th and you haven't filed the 990N for the third year, the only thing left is to get an extension and file the 990EZ for in this case that's 2023. Okay, so now let's look briefly at filing an extension on paper. Okay, I'm not going to go through all the details here. It's fairly simple, but there's some things you don't want to screw up. So what you're going to do is you're going to go to irs.gov and you're going to go to the search box and you're going to type in instructions form 8868. Okay, and they'll give you a couple results. The first two are what you care about. There's your instructions that has the address in it for where you send it to Ogden, and then about forms 8868, that will take you to the form, the current revision, and it's new. It's a January 2024 revision. You open up the PDF. You can save it to your computer. It's what I would recommend, and then filling it out on your computer, and then printing it. Okay, so they changed the form this year. They turned it into a 2-page form with some stuff you're not going to care about most likely. So you're going to fill in your the name of the organization, your employer ID number, the address that the IRS has on file for you. Okay, you want to try to get the same address. Then entering the return code that this application is for. So the 8868 will extend numerous types of returns. Okay, in fact, they've just added a new one this year, the form 5330, for employee benefit plans. But you don't care about that. We're talking about 990Ns and 990EZs here. So your return code is going to be 01 for the 990 or form 990EZ. So you're going to put 01 in that box. And then plan name does not apply to you. So here you're going to just say who the IRS can contact if they have questions about your books and records. Okay, it's just a technical thing. It asks you, it wants you to check a box if you don't have an office or a place of business in the United States. Here's group return information, unlikely to apply to you, but if it does, address that. Then here's where you're actually asking for the extension. Okay, I request an automatic 6-month extension of time to file until, and here in our case, it would be 6 months after May 15th, right? So it would be November 15th, 2024 for us. But that's going to vary depending on your situation. And then you're going to indicate whether the organization has a calendar year, which in our case it is. We would say calendar year 2023, right? Because that's the third year, that's the return we're trying to extend. Or if you had a short year for some reason, maybe this was your first year, obviously you wouldn't be in this situation if it was your first year. But if it was a short year, you might have to fill in that information here. And if you do, you have to tell them why it's a short year, whether it's your first return, final return, or a change in accounting period. Again, those things are not going to apply to you or based on the situation that you're in. Okay, this last section, line 3, this is not going to be applicable. This is for organizations that have taxes due. So the only page here that's relevant, it's going to be relevant to you to get your extension, is page 1. Okay, so you're going to print page 1 when it's all filled out. There's no place to sign it. Page 2 is not relevant at all, so you don't need that. Okay, and you're just going to mail that to the address in the instructions. You need to use certified mail, okay, because you absolutely want proof that this extension was filed by the due date, whatever your due date is. Now, just because you're filing a request to extend a 990EZ doesn't mean that you absolutely have to file the 990EZ. Normally you're going to have to, but let's say, for instance, that you filed the 8868 in anticipation of this issue on May 1st. Okay, and then let's say you've been trying to get the IRS has been promising they're going to file the 990N for you, right, on your behalf, which is something they frequently say. You can call the IRS, let's say, May 13th, whatever, something like that, a little before the due date, and ask them, say, hey, we just want to, we were having trouble filing our 990N. The last representative we spoke to said they were going to file it for us on our behalf. Can you check and see if the 2023 990N has posted to our account? Because we don't want to get revoked. And then they'll look and see. And if they say, oh yeah, that's posted, you're fine, then you don't have to file the 990EZ at that point because you're already covered. Your 990N was filed by the May 15th or whatever deadline. And you're good. Just because you filed an extension request for a 990EZ, that doesn't mean the IRS is going to come demanding the 990EZ. Okay, if you've already met your filing requirement with the 990N. So I've tried to cover all the details, and good luck.